Hi, my name is Cindy. I'm a marriage and family therapist in California. Today, I would like to share with you on how to face fear. I experienced a lot of fear over the years. I was constantly afraid. Did I do something wrong? Was I being rude? Are people gonna like me? Are people gonna hate me? It took me a really long time to realize that the fear was stopping me from doing a lot of things. Talking to people, ask questions, ask for help. Then I decided to figure out on how to manage fear. So I want to share with you some of the tricks that I learned throughout the years, both from my personal experience and my work as a therapist. First come first. Fear is a very common thing. It's part of being human. We all experience it. So if you are having some fear, that's totally okay. So how fear works is that we have this thing called amygdala. It's a small almond-shaped part of the brain. It's located above our ears and near the center of our head. You can think of it as your brain's alarm system. So when your eyes and ears sense a threat, like you see a fire or you hear a screaming in the middle of the night, the alarm will just go off. Then it sends signals to the other part of the brain saying, watch out, something is wrong. And this triggers the release of hormones like adrenaline, cortisol. Those hormones activate the body's stress response, making you more alert, aroused, and ready to react. You probably felt this before when you are about to have an argument with someone or take a really important test or giving a presentation in front of a crowd. Your heart races, your breathing gets shallow, and your armpit sometimes get wet. So your body is helping you to get ready. But the thing is, for some people, the amygdala is overly sensitive. To them, even minor changes can be perceived as threats. So if they see a snake on the ground, they immediately think, oh my God, it's a snake. Or they notice their boss giving them a strange look, and then they jump into the conclusion that I'm about to be fired. It's not their fault they didn't choose to react this way. That's the amygdala overreacting, sending those false alarms when there is no real threat. So when this happens frequently, it puts the body in a constant state of fight or flight, where the body feels like it needs to do something all the time. And it's not just stressful, it's exhausting. So the real question is that what are some things that we can do to make it less sensitive? Throughout the years, I found there are 4 strategies come up again and again. The seminars that I attended, the books that I've read, and those 4 things can really help people to manage fear. Tip number 1 is to recognize the thoughts of fear. If you are ready to face it, the first step is to recognizing what it really is. Often we have this feeling of worried, anxious, or afraid, but we can't really say what are we afraid of right away. It's usually vague, and sometimes it's a whole bunch of things all at once. It all tangled up in different thoughts, emotions, like a messy ball of string. To make it useful, we need to detangle it. I'm going to share a personal story. Several years ago, I worked for a community-based clinic in LA. And one day, the director, which is my boss, emailed me and asked me to stop by at his office tomorrow. When I saw the email, I was worried because he rarely talked to me directly. My first thought was, oh my God, I'm in trouble. It's like being called to the principal's office. Come to my office after lunch tomorrow and ask your parents to be here. I was worried all day and I didn't even have the appetite for dinner after I get home. I decided that I didn't want to be like this anymore. I don't like the feeling of being tortured by fear. So I grabbed a piece of paper and start writing down what exactly I'm afraid of. I wrote 3 things and then I started to think, is this fear based on reality or is it just my imagination? It's like divide them into 2 categories. One is real threat and one is imaginary scenarios. If the threat is real, what are some things that I can do? So I wrote down the solutions and I practiced them again and again, and then I feel better. I think what really helps is that I was prepared. Also, writing it down helps me to see it from a different perspective. The problem is no longer running around in my head. I externalize it. So it's right there in front of me, which can make it easier to understand and manage. So recognizing the thought of fear is tip number 1. Tip number 2, act but don't react. This tip has 2 parts. It comes hand on hand. Once you have recognized the fear, the next step is to face it. But this is where things get a little bit tricky. How am I going to face it when I'm afraid? The answer is not super complicated. You probably have done it many times. It's actually to face it little by little. It's kind of the main concept for exposure therapy, where we reduce fear by gradually exposing ourselves to it. For example, if public speaking gives you anxiety, start small. Imagine yourself confidently delivering a speech just in your mind, and then you start writing the script down and practice on your own. The next step is to practice speaking in front of your partner or some family members, just someone that you are familiar with and can't really go anywhere. After that, gradually add the audience to maybe 5 people and eventually work your way up to speaking in larger groups. These small, consistent steps are easier to attend, help to train your brain to see that the situation is not that dangerous. So that the first part of tip number 2 is to break your fear into small, chewable size and eat them up little by little. Here comes the second part. During this process, you may have some fear-driven thoughts. You might think, nobody is interested in this topic, they are going to feel bored. Or, what if I forgot everything? Should I just stay home? Those are what we call fear-driven thoughts. These thoughts might seem protective, but they are actually encouraging avoidance, which keep the fear alive. Remember the amygdala, the almond-shaped thingy? When you respond to the fear-driven thoughts, the amygdala will think, oh, I did the right thing to protect her. And then it will continue doing it again and again, which means the alarm always cranked up high, and you will constantly in this fearful state. Instead, what you should do is to ignore the fear-driven thoughts. So when it asks you to back out from the speech, you continue with your plan and you present it anyway. And then the amygdala will learn, oh, public speaking is not a threat. I better adjust the sensitivity next time. Our brain is constantly learning from how we react and behave. Tip number 3, build a support network. Facing fear is tough, but it's a lot easier when you're not doing it alone. Most books on facing fear emphasize the importance of building a support network. This could mean talking to a close family member or joining a support group, find a therapist, life coach, whatever it is. Just surround yourself with supportive people. Why does this help? Because reaching out shows that you are not letting fear freeze you. Also, hearing someone say, I've been there too, can really bring a sense of comfort and connection that makes you feel less isolated. And most importantly, it's about accountability. When you have someone encouraging you or checking in or asking how you are doing, you have this additional layer of responsibility and motivation. Tip number 4, self-compassion. Self-compassion is the game changer when it comes to facing fear, or really for anything, because it shapes on how you think about yourself. And when you change how you think, it shifts how you feel and behave. Self-compassion isn't about self-pity or being selfish. It's about being kind to yourself, especially when things get hard. Next time when things happen, pay attention to your inner voice. What does it sound like when things are a little bit overwhelming? Is it more like a devil on your shoulder whispering, you will never be successful, or you are such a failure? Or is it more like an angel reminding you, you are enough, you are going to be okay, and you are stronger than you think? And really think which voice is more helpful. Think about how would you speak to a friend who is struggling. Would you tell them, you messed this up, you are a total failure? Or would you say, you are doing the best you can, you are going to get through this? So self-compassion means offering the same support and understanding to yourself. To summarize it, the things we can do to face fear is to understand how fear affects us, externalize it by writing it down, and recognizing whether it's real or imaginary scenario. From there, take small actions toward the things that scare you without feeding into the fear-driven thoughts. Stay connected with others, and most importantly, bring some kindness toward yourself. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.